This is not a warning. This is a preview. The person at 40 who is financially struggling is almost never there because of a single catastrophic decision. They are there because of the accumulation of small ones, choices made in the 20s and 30s that seemed, at the time, like the only reasonable option, or like something they would fix later, or like something that was fine for now. Later is now. And fine for now was not actually fine. This is worth sitting with. Not as an indictment, but as an honest look at the mechanics of how financial situations compound in both directions. Because the same mechanism that erodes a financial position over a decade also builds one. And the only difference, usually, is whether someone understood it clearly enough, early enough to choose. Start with the most common version of 40. You are earning a reasonable income. More than you made at 25, significantly more. You are not in crisis. But you are also not where you thought you would be. The retirement account has something in it, but not what the calculator says it should. The savings are thin, enough for a few months, maybe not enough to feel like a buffer. The mortgage is there or the rent is still there, and either way it takes more of the paycheck than you would like. There are the children's expenses if you have children. There are the parents' needs starting to appear if your parents are aging. You are, by most external measures, doing fine. But the window of easy correction is closing. The decisions that were theoretical at 25 are concrete at 40. The future is no longer the future. It is starting to be quite near. There is a specific feature of the 30s that makes this so common. The 30s are, for many people, the decade of maximum simultaneous obligation. Career is established enough to feel stable but demanding enough to be consuming. Relationships are formed and require maintenance. Children arrive if they are going to. Parents begin to need things. The mortgage begins if it has not already. The financial pressure is not catastrophic. It is just persistent, continuous, everywhere at once. In this context, the future, the retirement account, the investment portfolio, the emergency fund that is supposed to be 6 months, not 2, becomes the thing that gets deferred. Not abandoned, deferred. You will deal with it when things settle down, when the kids are older, when the car is paid off, when the next project is done. Things do not settle down. They do not settle down at 40 either, on average. They change shape. The kids get more expensive. The parents need more. The career has different pressures. The window of deferral keeps extending into a future that keeps being the present. The mechanics of this are worth being specific about, because they are genuinely counterintuitive. The decade that matters most for retirement wealth is not your 50s. It is not even your 40s. It is your 20s and early 30s. The reason is compounding, the process by which returns generate returns, which generate more returns over time. Money invested at 25 has 4 decades to compound before retirement. Money invested at 45 has 2 decades. The early money does not just have more time. It has exponentially more productive time. A specific example, $1 invested at 25, earning 7% annually, becomes roughly $15 by 65. The same dollar invested at 45 becomes approximately $4. The early dollar is worth nearly 4 times as much as the late dollar. Not because you worked harder, not because you were smarter, because of when it happened. This is the math that the 20s and 30s, under pressure, tend to push aside. And this is why the person at 40, looking at the retirement account, sometimes feels a specific kind of grief that is not about the number itself but about what the number represents. The years that went by, the compounding that did not happen, the future self who will now have to work longer or spend less or both. This is not a reason for despair. It is a reason for urgency. Because the same compounding math that makes early action powerful makes late action still meaningful. The money you invest at 45 does still compound to something real. It is just less forgiving of delay from here. There are patterns that get people to 40 without enough. The most common is not recklessness. It is passivity. Money that was not moved into investments because moving it required a decision, and the decision was uncomfortable, and the discomfort was easier to avoid than to act through. Savings accounts that held cash for years at near zero returns because moving the money to something better felt complicated and the current arrangement felt fine enough. The second most common is lifestyle. The creep of expenses that expanded to meet income, leaving no margin. The decade of paying the full amount every month but never getting ahead, because the full amount was the whole thing. The third is the emergency that derailed. The job loss, the medical bill, the divorce, the event that was not the plan and that emptied the buffer and reset the clock and required years of recovery before there was room to think about the future again. These are not the same problem. Passivity is a choice problem. Lifestyle is a values alignment problem. Emergency is a structure problem, the absence of the buffer that would have made the emergency manageable instead of devastating. And the answer to each is different. What 40 without enough requires is not panic. Panic makes bad decisions, and bad decisions compound just like good ones do. What it requires is honesty about the actual situation. Not the story about the situation, not the plan to deal with it eventually, the actual numbers written down right now. What is in the account? What the gap is between what is there and what needs to be there. What the monthly number would need to be from here to close that gap. Most people do not know these numbers precisely. They have an approximate sense, usually optimistic, because the precise sense is uncomfortable. But approximate and optimistic is how you get to 60 having done very little of the math that matters. The number might be alarming. Often it is. The alarm is the useful part. It converts the vague background anxiety into a specific problem that can be addressed with a specific action. The person at 40 who has made the mistakes cannot undo them. That is real. The compounding that did not happen. But the person at 40 who starts now, seriously, with full understanding of the math, who increases the retirement contribution, who clears the high-interest debt, who builds the buffer, who makes the decisions that felt too uncomfortable to make at 25, that person at 60 looks substantially different from the person at 40 who deferred for another decade. Not the same as if they had started at 25. Honestly, no. The math is clear about that. But not catastrophically behind either if they start now. The window is not closed. It is smaller than it was, which means the urgency is real, not paralyzing, but real. The things that felt optional at 25 are not optional at 40. The margin for deferral has been used. You are not the person at 40 yet, or maybe you are. If you are not, this is the preview. The decisions you are making right now, what you contribute, what you defer, what you let creep, what you build, these are the inputs to a calculation that will produce a specific output in 20 years. You will not be surprised by that output if you run the calculation now. If you are, the preview is over. This is the thing, not a dress rehearsal, not something you will handle later when the conditions are better. The conditions will not be better, but the math still works. Later than you wanted, harder than it needed to be, but it still works. Start with what is actually there, then start changing it. That is the whole instruction.